it. Goodbye. Pio, thank you so much. God, it brought me right back to our days in St. Catherine's in Maynooth when we used to play. Remember?
Do you remember
Oh
that?
my goodness. I mean, I know practice makes perfect, but you've some talent. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. You can even make an old trad musician like myself sound good. But that was absolutely fantastic. If you could share your virtual autograph with us, that'd be great before you get
Oh,
too
yes,
famous.
of course. I'll just
That would be
write it
great.
on there.
Thank you so much, Pio. We'd love to have
Amazing.
more of you, but I'm afraid we'll have to move on. Sorry to
Oh,
everybody.
no, let's move on. Thank you,
No,
Sarah.
we'll definitely
Thank
have you
you, Annie.
back. Thank you. Okay, so our next speaker is Monika Schaefer. She's going to share her testimony with us. Monika Schaefer is joining us all the way from Texas. Yeah, big tear. She's 22 years old and from South Texas. She served as a missionary with NET Ministries for 2 years and volunteered at the Regina Chaley Hostel, which is the Legion of Mary Hostel here in Dublin, for the last 3 months. So she just left us in May. So Monika, you're very welcome.
Hey.
Thank you. All right. Is my audio okay?
All good to go.
Because all right, somebody was mowing the lawn earlier, so it was really loud and I couldn't tell. I was like, oh my God, go with it. All right, yeah. So my name is Monika. I am from South Texas. And something I wanted to kind of start with is this little quote by Saint Irenaeus. He said that the glory of God is man fully alive. And it's kind of an important thing because it's very significant in all of this. But so I grew up in a pretty Catholic home. My dad was a youth minister for 20 something years. Both my parents did ministry when they were younger. My dad's a deacon now. So like we've always had the faith as like a backbone. And even in my family, I have 4 brothers and we've all been homeschooled from the very beginning. And so just having like faith as that formation, but then also as like being homeschooled, having my parents being able to like really teach us those things hands-on was like, it was definitely very vital in me having any sort of faith now. I won't say it wasn't easy in a lot of ways, because even for me personally, like being homeschooled sometimes was a struggle because I was always like that kid who didn't really have that many friends. And like, I always felt like I was like the second choice for a lot of people, you know, because I just didn't really fit in anywhere. And then even on like the side of like the church and ministry and my parents, because they were doing youth groups and retreats and all these things, a lot of times like their attention was on that. And sometimes it made me feel like, again, I was just the second choice. And because of like my perception of these things, like growing up, it kind of almost, I ingrained it in myself that my worth was placed in being wanted and chosen and that kind of thing. So once I got into high school or like secondary school, that was kind of more when I decided to start choosing the faith for myself, like more personally. I went on a retreat and it just really impacted me a lot. And after that, I ended up getting confirmed, and it was like perfect because, you know, I was deciding that this was something that I wanted to choose. And it was beautiful. At this point, I was like on fire, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go tell the whole world. And so I wanted to do ministry. I wanted to do NET Ministries in the US. So for those who don't know, NET stands for National Evangelization Teams. So you're basically put in a group of people and you're traveling around putting on retreats or youth groups, youth ministry type of things, you know? And so like this was the dream for me because both my parents had served with NET when they were younger, and both my older brothers had just served with NET as well. So in my head, I was like, all right, there's no way they're going to tell me no. Like, obviously I'm going to get in. I'm a Schaefer. They can't say no to me. And like, I had this terrible mentality going into it. But well, surprise, surprise, they didn't accept me. And, you know, they didn't flat out say no, but they said to reapply again like a year later. But for me, coming from this perception of my worth being so in being accepted, that it completely crushed me, because this is what I wanted to do for so long, that in general, them saying no at all was just completely, yeah, it was a rough time. And yeah, so it was really a difficult couple of months after that, and I just kind of felt like I was stuck in just like this little bit of darkness. And to try to get myself out of it as kind of like a rebound almost, I was like, okay, so my parents can't fully perfectly love me. I can't be perfectly loved by my friends, and I can't even be perfectly loved by missionaries. So maybe a relationship is my answer, you know? And again, newsflash, I was wrong. But so but the thing was, like, even when there was a good relationship, even if it wasn't bad in and of itself, there was always just something missing, something off, and it just always ended up fading into something that was nothing. Or versus like relationships that were more selfish, either from my end or from his end, it was just like, even more so, that was nowhere near perfect love or just love in general. And so again, I just felt feeling completely like nothing, like it was never enough, it was empty, you know? So at this point in life, I was kind of pulling on towards like the next thing. I was like, all right, so what's my direction going to be, you know? And I still wanted to do ministry, so I ended up applying to do net, but in Ireland. And I kind of always wanted to go to Ireland, so I was like, why not? It's still net. And but God opened the door for that, and I was accepted, and that's where I was going. So at this point, again, I just had like this whole experience of nothing has ever been enough. But now, okay, maybe God, I need to give you a chance. Maybe you are the answer. But at this point, I just didn't know, you know? So flashback to 2018 when I first went to Ireland for this. For net, you have a couple of weeks of training, and the first bit is just kind of a retreat mode for you. And so it was one of the nights on retreat, and we were in adoration. And I remember being in this like small little chapel, and I was right up close to the altar. So Jesus in the Eucharist, in the monstrance, on the altar, right there, and praise and worship was going. It was just very beautiful. And I remember just praying my heart out and being like, God, I have nothing left. Like there is nothing else. Like I need to give myself fully to you right now. And there was a song playing, and the words of the song I kind of used as my prayer. And the words were, Jesus, you have me completely. Every breath that I breathe, I'm absolutely in love with you. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever prayed / sung something so like authentically, so deeply before. And like when I was doing this, and I don't exactly know how to describe it other than it was as if my heart just had eyes for a moment. And like out of the Eucharist on the altar, I saw this image of Jesus come like out of the Eucharist, but like in his bodily form, you know, and he stepped down the altar towards me on my knees, and he like grabbed my shoulders and he gently lifted me up. And then he got down on one knee in front of me, and he sang those words back, and he said, Monika, I am absolutely in love with you. And I've never felt more completely whole in my entire life. And I knew that it was God's love that was enough, because it was definitely enough. And I realized all I had to do was say yes. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was accept that love. And it was crazy, because from that moment on to like right now with my life, that's all it's ever been, is just me accepting what he's giving me, accepting his love. Because the next things that I've done, I've never had to really worry or stress about what's going to happen, where he's going to take me, even though sometimes I have, but I have never needed to, because he's always taking care of it. Next thing I know, I'm finishing up net in Ireland, and then the door opened for me to end up doing net a second year back in the States, what I originally wanted, right? So God opened the door for that. Ended up doing that. Around that time, COVID hit, and yeah, you guys know about that. So wasn't the greatest time for me, but even in shutdown craziness, the world not knowing what the heck is going on, God was still there, because throughout this whole time of me being on net like a second year, and even through all shutdown, like I'd been praying so much that God would bring me back to Ireland, because I had such a deep connection to Ireland that I knew that's where I needed to go back. And in this pandemic world, he decided to open the door for it, made it possible. So I, dropped all my things and left and went on a plane to Dublin. And so I spent 3 months in the Regina Caeli hostel, so run by the Legion of Mary. And it was an incredible experience for me, like so beautiful. And I guess like the crazy thing about it is that all throughout this, I've been like seeking this perfect love, right? And I couldn't find it in family or friends, or even in good things that I wanted, like ministry. Even in that, there was no perfect love in all of these things. But the moment that I did say yes to Christ and to accept that love from him was when he kind of turned me around again. And he was like, all right, now let's actually figure these things out. And because when I did net, like if I hadn't done net, I wouldn't have received a lot of the healing from just past brokenness that I did. And then also, if I hadn't done the Regina Che, like if I hadn't gone to go volunteer there and experience those things, I wouldn't have been able to forgive the people that I needed to. And those are pretty big things. So yeah, I don't know, like the crazy thing about all of this is like right now in life, I don't know what I'm doing. Yet again, I'm here just kind of going with it. And I guess like that's the beautiful thing about being on an adventure with Christ, is that you never know what to expect. But for like the first time ever in my life, I'm fully at peace with not knowing. So I guess, looking back at all of this and kind of in a nutshell of it, I realized that I've always had this desire to be loved, but I've always struggled to accept love. And I think we're all like that in a lot of ways, even just like with happiness in general. It's like we all want to be happy, but we struggle with choosing joy. And we all want to do more than just survive through life, right? So how do we decide how to be alive? How do we decide how to live? So that quote by St. Irenaeus, who said, "The glory of God is man fully alive." So my encouragement for you in all this is that you also try to embrace your identity as much as you can as being in Christ and being fully loved by him and perfectly loved by him alone. Because it's when you embrace that fully that you realize that you are that glory of God that St. Irenaeus is talking about. And it's the moment that you recognize that. In that exact moment is the moment that you become fully alive. So embrace your identity and let God do marvelous things for you. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, Monica, that was so beautiful. Thanks so much for giving your testimony.
Again.
Yeah, you've
Anyway.
just